Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swick, and on this podcast, we talk about mental health, addictions, ADHD, trauma, really anything anyone's afraid to talk about. We're going to make them afraid to not talk about it today. I believe everyone's story is valuable. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. You're all welcome on my platform. If you could head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, head over to Apple, Spotify, leave a review, leave a 5-star review, write a little blurb, whatever it is. If you like the show, it really helps the show grow organically. And you can head over to my Instagram page at Depths of Darkside and follow along the show right there. And you can get all the up-to-date stuff, see what I'm doing in my private life. I share it all on there, everyone. But with no further ado, I'd love to introduce you to my next guest. I got Nicole Marso from the Colorado area of the USA. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about you, Nicole?
Sure. My name is Nicole. I am a Colorado native. I've lived in Denver my whole life. I'm 30. I am a single mom to two little babies, and I am about 16 and a half months sober. I'm a small business owner, just doing that thing called life every single day, trying to make the best of it and move forward from an interesting past, I guess I could say.
So what was it that led you to becoming sober, Nicole? What were some events going on in your life that you're like, shit, I should get my shit together? Like most of
Um,
us coming into sobriety, we have those aha moments, like maybe it's time to get my shit together.
Yeah, my final aha moment was a hospital stay. That was the last one. But my addiction to alcohol started when I was about 21 years old. My brother committed suicide at age 14. I was 21, and my daughter at that time was 3 months old. And that is where I used alcohol to cope with grief. My brother had just died, so nobody could judge me that I was drinking too much. And then it continued off and on for about 8 years, and that's a long time to use alcohol as an excuse to cover up grief. A lot of times there are these underlying traumas, that addiction that we use addiction to cover up, and finally at age 29, after quite a few health, issues, I ended up in the hospital in August of 2020, so right in the middle of COVID, actually, with pancreatitis. And 29-year-old healthy females don't usually get pancreatitis. So the doctors pretty much called me on my bullshit right away and were like, "You're an alcoholic and you drink a lot." And that was uh, that was when I decided that sobriety was pretty much my only option. I actually had a doctor come into the room, and his exact words were, "If you continue to drink the way you're drinking, you're not going to see your children graduate high school." And at that time, my daughter was 7 and my son was 3. So that was loud and clear for me. That was what I needed to hear to put me in my place.
And then it's sometimes we need those moments of clarity, like things that we're doing to ourselves, abusing our bodies and stuff to wake up and smell the coffee, as the old saying is. And it was for me, it was my kids as well. If I eventually someone was either gonna find me dead in a ditch, I'm gonna be behind bars the rest of my life, or someone's gonna be burying me, or I'm gonna be dead somewhere if I just kept going the way I was as well. And I had to think, I have my kids, if I leave this earth, my kids won't have a father.
Yeah.
My fiance won't have a partner.
Mhm.
Like, my mom and dad won't have a son anymore. My brothers won't have a brother, and those types of things too. So all those things started playing roles in my head, and it's like, it's time to ship up or shape up or ship out, basically, you
Mhm.
know? Shit or get off the pot, as the old saying
Yeah.
is. So let's talk a little bit, what was it, what were some thoughts and everything that led up to not your brother's suicide, but the things that were going on in your life? And what were your thoughts going through your head when your brother did this, committed suicide?
So I was a very young mom. I had my daughter at age 21, and my life was, looking back on it, it was chaotic, but I was expecting it to be chaotic because I had a newborn baby and I was just turned 21. So I wasn't even fully into like adulthood and becoming a parent. And then when my brother committed suicide, I remember that very first night, I went and stayed with my mom in a hotel because she didn't wanna sleep in her home, obviously, and I remember that was the first night that I had consumed alcohol, but I didn't care that, like, about anything that had happened. That was the first time I consumed alcohol and I guess felt the numbing side effects of what it gives some people. I'd consumed alcohol before, but never to the extent of wanting to not feel, basically. And I'd found out that my brother died very early in the morning. So I'd had a whole day of feelings, lots of feelings, dealing with a lot of emotions. And so when that night had finally settled down and I'd gotten my daughter to bed and I was sitting with my mom and we were drinking, that was the first time that whole day where I, like, didn't feel anything, and I really liked not feeling anything.
Yeah, and that's what drugs and alcohol did for me too, is to numb the pain, to the I didn't wanna have to feel any of those feelings, but lo and behold, when I got, cleaned up and sober, boy, oh boy, did I really start feeling those feelings, and that's when all these mental health issues
Yeah.
and mental illness and stuff really started creeping in the back door because for so long I'd been numbing all this pain and all these feelings of mine that I had no clue that I had all these other underlying issues as well. So
Mhm.
then I got to start dealing with all these things that are arising and stuff. At least I have these now today. I have tools in the tool belt to help me deal with the pain or deal with, grief, deal with anything going on in my life, the feelings, but it's okay to feel your feelings though too today. I've realized you're not gonna always gonna have a good day. Some days are gonna be worse off than others, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But today I have these other options of picking up the phone and calling someone. We all have technology, most of us today, or an email or something, typing an email or sending a text or a voice memo or something to someone. Writing it out in a journal if you have no one to talk to at that point in time, if it's the middle of the night or something. Things I've learned through recovery too. It doesn't matter what time of day, and I've told other friends that too. You can always shoot me a text or a call. I will see it if I don't get to it right away. That's important about getting others' numbers, building that support network around you with those people that you wanna be around today, not going back to your old ways though too. Who did you need to forgive this last year? Is there anyone in particular, or is there people that you've had to forgive over the last year for things that they've done or in your past or anything?
This past year was a lot of forgiving myself, I think. I was sober for a year before I ever started a recovery program, which I do not recommend. I don't know why I did it that way, but I was so adamant on still had that mindset of I gotta do everything by myself. I can do it by myself. And so for the first year of my sobriety, it was like wake up, don't drink, get through the day, repeat, which was miserable. And it was miserable for a lot of reasons because when I got sober, I ended up having to leave a 10-year relationship with the father of my children because we drank alcoholically together in order for me to, keep my sobriety. I had to get away from that. You have to change what's around you. And so it was a big change for my children. It was a big change for me. And so a lot of, I feel like a lot of early recovery, whether you have a program or not, it is really hard. And sometimes it is just getting through the day. And I felt like I lacked in a lot of things in my life by just trying to stay sober. And now that I have a solid recovery program and I'm working my program and I work it every single day, I can look back on those early times in recovery and understand that the best thing that I was doing was just getting through some days and just staying sober. And that was okay because now I've built this group of people around me and this support system in my recovery program that's allowed me to start building the life that myself and my children have today. But at the beginning, there was no way that I could have built any of that if there wasn't sobriety.
100%, and it's all about changing the people, places, and things, and it sounds like you had to do that, with your former partner and stuff. Now, was he not willing to quit the drinking,
Yeah, he wasn't,
or
and
he just wasn't ready?
he wasn't ready, and I do remember him saying very early on in when we separated, I just don't understand why you can't just get sober for me too." And I was like, "I could barely get sober for myself." And so that was like the sure sign that he was not ready, and that I do hope at some point in his life he chooses sobriety and recovery, but that's gonna be on his own time on his own terms. But the day that I got out of the hospital, so I was in the hospital for a week. And then when I got out of the hospital, so I was just about a week sober. I actually tried to go back home to the house that we shared together. And the second that I got home, he was outside grilling and drinking beers and taking shots. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I stay here, I'm going to go back to where I was a week ago. And this week that I've spent in the hospital getting sober, which getting sober is not easy, would have been for a waste. And so that night, I actually ended up going back to the hospital, staying in the hospital one more night and calling my mom and saying, I need you to come get me and I have to come live with you. And at 29 years old, that was, like, very humbling to have to ask your mom if you could move back in, and so I literally this was in the middle of COVID too, so my kids were doing school from home, everything was crazy, everything was a mess, and so I packed up whatever my kids and I could fit in a backpack, and I moved into my bedroom when I was a teenager at my mom's house and stayed there, and that was one of those you getting sober and spending a week in the hospital is humbling enough, and then I had to move back in with my mom, and I really did have to start over, and that was my rock bottom. Wasn't really when I went to the hospital, it should have been because I've had health issues that I shouldn't have had, but it was really that, that choice that I was faced with when I got out of the hospital of having no car, no home, no clothes, no money, no job, no anything, and having to really start completely over, living at at my mom's house and having to build my life up from ground one again, and I could have very easily used that as, an excuse to drink or an excuse to go back to my ex or any of those things, but it was really that choice that I was faced with was I could go back to what I've always done or I could create this new path, and I chose to create the new path, which was an uphill battle for a while.
And it is for anyone, it is an uphill battle early in recovery and stuff like that. I know for myself, from my personal experience, it was a real uphill battle, especially switching careers just before COVID started. Plus, you're only a few months clean at that point, getting a new job, moving, the whole 9 yards and those types of things, and then working to get my kids back in my life. I understand your uphill battle too, and having to move back in with your mom and dad. I've been there and done that as well later in life, and it does suck into my 30s going, I'm moving back home. We just split up, those types of things.
Mhm.
I have nowhere to go. Pack everything I can into my vehicle and go on my way sort of thing. So yeah, no, I feel you there, and but it sucks having to start over, but it sometimes is for the better.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
What can you do to support someone, Nicole, who's really struggling with addiction? What can you do for someone though if they're still struggling?
I deal with this on almost a, I would say, weekly basis with the father of my children. And because I still fight, at this point, I still fight very hard for him to be in their life. And I surround him with a lot of grace. And I think I'm able to do that because I drink with him. So I know where he's coming from. I know what he's doing, and I know what it's like to be there. Don't get me wrong, there have been tons of issues over the past 16 months with custody and him consuming alcohol alcoholically when he's with the kids and stuff like that, so I have had to set up these boundaries in order to protect my children, but I also have a lot of people in my life that, are like, "I don't understand why you don't just pull custody entirely, take child support, and just walk away." And I have a hard time with that because I know what it's like. I am an alcoholic. I know what it's like to have a hard time putting the bottle down even when you so I know what it's like to put alcohol before my kids. I've been there before. And so just because I'm sober, I can look back at him or look over at him with grace and understand what he's struggling with.
You can put yourself in his shoes, it sounds like. And that's the nice thing that I love to hear, that you're putting yourself in his shoes and not listening, let's call it the peanut gallery. You just pull the
Yeah.
custody and stuff like that, because that's going to devastate it even more.
Mhm.
I feel, yes, it might be on his terms sometimes, when he sees the kids or what he does, but maybe at least for the kids' sake, not drink while he's with them or whatever. What he does without them, you can't control.
Exactly. And that is our deal right now. And I was raised by a single mom. I am also a child of an alcoholic and an addict. My dad left when I was very young, and he has struggled with drugs and alcohol his entire life. And so, obviously, when it comes to me, the apple did not fall far from the tree. And I knew my dad was an alcoholic, and I knew my dad was a drug addict, and I still picked up the bottle and I still drank alcoholically. But I also reconnected with my dad in my early 20s. And I've seen his struggles with going in and out of the rooms and in and out of sobriety. And I really wanted when I had children, I really wanted their dad to be in their life. Obviously, when I had children, I hadn't developed alcoholism yet, so I didn't there was no way of knowing that both of their parents would end up as alcoholics, but I do think that there is a chance for their dad to get sober if he ever wants to get sober. And I really hope I think that pulling the kids completely away from him would not benefit him or my kids. And so I'm willing to take the extra steps and do the extra work to benefit everyone in this situation.
Yeah, because if you pull the kids away from their father, who they love and adore as well, down the road, I feel that they're gonna have resentment towards you too, and those types of things. Like, and my son's at an age now where we've given him the choice if he wants to come back and forth. He's a teenager now, so like he can make up those own decisions on his own. And same with my daughter. But for a few months, I didn't see my kids, and that was because of the choices I made. I had to get myself better, so I between me and the mothers of my children, I decided it's best for me to get my shit together before I even, see the kids again. And that was between us. And my son understood because he was an older kid. And it took a few months getting some clean drug tests and stuff like that. But I knew I had to get myself better before I could even take care of anyone else. If I couldn't take care of myself, how am I going to take two kids when they're with me too? Yes, when I had them, lots of the time I was doing drugs and stuff like that. I wasn't present mentally. Physically, I was there, but mentally, I was never there. So I wanted to get myself to a state that I was mentally and physically there, both to be present in their lives when I was with them too.
Yeah.
So has faith or belief in a higher power played a role at all in your sobriety journey, Nicole?
Yes. The one thing I always say is so I have had a faith in my higher power, which I choose to call God, my whole life. And that was the one thing that I didn't lose in active addiction. So when I got sober and I had nothing but me and my kids and my faith, and I leaned on my faith really heavy. Now that I am working a program and in a program, I can see where those times in my life where my higher power stepped in and did the things for me that I could not do for myself, which I think very much was landing me in the hospital and stuff like that and choosing a path of recovery. So, yes, my higher power is everything in my recovery. I have conscious contact with God every morning and every night, and that's the first thing that I say when I wake up in the morning is I ask for another day of sobriety, and at the end of the day, I thank God for another day of sobriety, and that's how I take my days.
Nice. It's good to have a faith or belief in something because there is a power greater than ourselves out there, whatever you choose to call it. And some people call it God, like yourself. Everyone calls it different. But there is a higher power out there that I believe watches over us and helps us through our journeys and whatever it is we have going on in life for sure. I've had a higher power out there, I think, but before recovery as well for myself. Some of the craziness that was going on in my life, if it wasn't for something watching over me or something out there, I truly believe I'd be dead by this point in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do you let go of guilt and shame to
I give myself a lot of grace too. I still carry a lot of guilt. It is something that I'm working with my sponsor on, but
Why do you carry guilt around still?
I started drinking when my daughter was 3 months old, and throughout my drinking career, I always prided myself on I wouldn't drink until after they went to bed. My kids really never saw me drink, so I thought I was being a good alcoholic. I don't know why I thought that was somehow better, but I really prided myself on that, and now that I'm sober, And so my son is 4 years younger than my daughter, and I'm going through these things with my son who's 4 years old that I don't remember going through with my daughter, or that I chose not to do when my daughter was 4 years old, and I carry guilt with that. Like, right now, when my kids go to bed, I read them a book every single night, and I lay with them until they fall asleep. I didn't do that when my daughter was 1 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, or 6 years old. I didn't do that. I would put my kids to bed, kiss them, good night, turn the TV on, shut the lights off, and so that I could go in the kitchen and drink. So even though I was not drinking around my kids, I was choosing not to do things that benefited them so that I could go drink. And so I carry a lot of guilt around just stuff that I feel like I missed out on with my daughter, and stuff that I feel like I really did the bare minimum sometimes as parenting, and I feel like that's not fair, to my kids, and so I carry guilt with that, but I do live every single day present with my kids, and I you can't go back and you can't change the past, and you also can't really let the past, like, define everything about you, but what I can do is I can take every single day and do the best that I can today, and that's what I have, and that's what I do. But there is still that part, like, there was I think it was, like, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I was laying down with my son, and he came over and like, snuggled and fell asleep on my shoulder, and this crazy thought came over me that was like, I chose to go drink in another room in my home instead of do this with my kids. And I can't believe that there was a point in my life where my exact words were that I chose to take shitty shots of vodka instead of laying with my kids. And I can't believe that was a mindset that I ever had. And I carry guilt with that because my son experiences some things that my daughter didn't, because he was younger when I got sober and she was older, because that's just how time works. And so that's something that I carry guilt with.
And I there's some guilt around me too. I feel you there, where my daughter's half the age of my son's 14 and my daughter's just turned 7. And so she's experiencing things, with me that I never really did with my son either. Like, but even for the first few years of her life, it was just me. I always high, but like you said, lay them to bed, throw on the TV or read them. Sometimes I might read them a quick book, but then boom, like I would always make sure that I was right out the door, go get drugs or have them delivered, those types of things at all. That was the life. They go to bed, let's get them to bed at this time so I can get on with my night, sort of thing. And it's a shitty way to look back at it. If those things didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person I am today either. So if those
It
things
is.
didn't happen in your life either, you wouldn't be the mom you are today, or you wouldn't be able to experience the things you are with your son. Yes, it's unfortunate you didn't get to do that with your daughter, but at least you are being able to experience these with your son, and you can still experience those things with your daughter. You can work new things in and create new memories and stuff like that too. If you had achieved all of your life goals tomorrow, Nicole, what would you do next with your life? I know you said you're an entrepreneur and stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that before we go to this question, though. What are you doing with your business or businesses?
I actually just launched a boutique with another single mom that's in recovery, and she approached me back in, I think it was October or September maybe of 2021. And because I used to be an affiliate for another boutique, so I used to represent someone else's clothing on my Facebook and my Instagram. And I'd always wanted to own my own boutique, but it is a lot to get into a boutique. And so it was one of those things where I was like, "Oh, that would be cool, but this is good enough. I can do it this way for now." And so I was representing someone else's boutique business that they had built from the ground up, and just using my social media following to help them sell their clothes, and that was it. And she had approached me and she was like, "Have you ever thought of opening up your own boutique?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I know what goes into it." Like, it's a lot. And she was like, "I've always wanted to open up my boutique and I wanted to run it by you because I like how you do it." And what she didn't know is I had just gotten the news that my job was closing down at the end of September. And so I was about to be unemployed. And so it was one of those, like, divine timing things where it was like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I'm gonna let someone else in on my dream of opening up a boutique and doing it with them, and I was like, "I don't know how it's gonna work, but I'm gonna say yes." And I didn't know if it was ever going to really, like, come into fruition because I still a lot of times in my past when people always left, people always didn't follow through on their words, so I was just used to getting let down, and so when she came to me, I was like, "Oh, this is cool, but it's probably not gonna happen," and then it did, and we launched our boutique, December 3rd of 2021, and it has been such a cool experience. It's been really empowering. It's been really frustrating. It's been all the things, but I watch myself grow every single day, um, working for myself and figuring out what that looks like. And she's actually the reason that I started working a recovery program because she kept saying, "You should really get a sponsor." And I'd be like, "Oh, I don't have a time for a sponsor. I don't wanna go to meetings. I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna do this." And she was like, "You're doing yourself a disservice by not working a program." And I was like, "I think this girl, in order to work with me, wants me to get a sponsor and work a program, like, she wants me to better myself in order to join in business with me." And it was one of those things right after I got a sponsor and I started working the steps, our business launched, and it was one of those things that God was holding on hold until I did what I was supposed to do. Yeah, that was just it's been a really cool experience, and it's been really cool to have my hands on every part of it and to have a say in something that happens.
And you get to reap the benefits, and it's something you can call your own with your
Mhm.
business partner now too, which is nice. You don't have anyone else to answer to except your business partner. You're your own boss, which is amazing. At some point this year for me too is all about growth. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but like through the whole pandemic and still going forward, it's been about growth. I haven't let the things that have happened on in this world to set me back. It's just given me more growth, given me more fire in my ass. Some days are better than others with my ADHD as well. Y So, like, some days, I just don't want 35 different steps to empty the dishwasher for me, and my brain starts going or different things like that. So I just gotta keep motivated and keep motivating myself. If it's just little things at a time too. Some days are better than others, and I'm sure it's the same for yourself as well.
Yeah.
So back to my question though. So if you achieved all of your life goals tomorrow, what would you be doing next?
I've probably set some more goals. And I think that once I definitely think you set a goal and then when you reach that goal, you set another goal. I don't like standing still. I don't like being still. That's the alcoholic in me. I want to do something. I want to go. And I can either put that energy towards, something not good or I could put it towards something good. And so I think that especially because I'm setting a role model for my children, and I want them to know that they can set goals and they can achieve them, and then they can further their goals.
What's one small attainable goal that you've set for yourself so far for 2022?
I have started a morning routine. I am not a morning person. I do not like mornings. I really thought that I wasn't a morning person because I was an alcoholic and I was always hungover in the morning, but I got sober and I still was not a morning person. But I do think that having a solid morning routine really sets up your day and your goals and your success for everything. And I actually do I have a mentor that I work with trading currency. And he was like, "What's your morning routine? Can I wake up? Can I take my kids to school?" And he was like, "No, you don't. You need to set something. You need to wake up like an hour and a half before your kids." And I was like, "What?" But I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna try it because what's the worst that could happen? I'll have quiet time before my kids wake up for the day. That's not bad." And so I started setting my alarm, and I get up around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, which is normally if my kids were going to school, we'd wake up, have breakfast in the car, and go straight to school. That was our morning. And so I've created a morning routine where I wake up, I have my conscious contact with God, and then I write down my goals. And then I write down everything that I'm grateful for, and I read them back out, and I move my body a little bit, even if it's my apartment complex doesn't have a gym, so it's doing some sort of workout in my living room, and it really does set up your day for so much success because when you start your morning, you really kind of set what the rest of your day is going to look like. And so I'm still not a morning person. And when my alarm goes off, I'm still like, do I really want to have goals or do I want sleep? But there's something in me that's just get up, and I've been doing it now for a week. I keep all my, like, journals and notebooks right next to me on my bed so that I can start everything, but I think I've been doing it for a little over a week now. I didn't start on the 1st, and I gotta say, it's better than getting that extra hour of sleep. It really is.
Yes, they do say it takes 21 days to form a habit. So just keep going at it because it does get easier and easier. I used to be one that would be up all night long or a few days at a time, but I've always been doesn't matter what time I go to bed, but I love getting up early and getting that start today, having that coffee, whatever it
Mhm.
is. And sometimes I try not to, and I'm getting, I got to get better at it. But no, leave your phone aside for the first hour of
Yes.
your day or whatever. Don't
Mhm.
worry about social media and those types of things. Get your book out, read those 10 pages or 15 pages, get yourself coffee, have a little bit of breakfast, get a couple things down around the house or journal, those types of things. Those are all great ideas. I love the morning routine. It's going to get better. I trust me, Nicole.
Yeah, and I really the big thing was that I didn't think about is not touching your phone when you first get up because you take in that all of that right away, and if the first thing you take in is a text message that pisses you off or a social media post that scares you or ticks you or like, that starts off your day, and so the biggest thing for me was putting my phone on the charger, and then when I get up in the morning to start my morning routine, I leave my room and I leave my phone, and I do not touch my phone until my morning routine is done, because now I have the mindset that whatever is thrown at me for the rest of the day, I can step back and breathe, and I can respond and not react, and so that is been a game changer for me.
I love respond, but not react. And that's huge for me still. I'm working on those things. You just, or like when someone's talking, take those few extra minutes and pause for a few seconds and really think about what your answer is going to be or how you're going to react or those
Mhm.
types of things. Cause that can change a moment in the split second if you react improperly or with anger and stuff like that, or if it's
Yeah.
something you don't like. So
Yeah.
take that time just to let what was ever said sink in and be an active listener.
Yes.
Before we go, you wanna let everyone know where they can find you and, how they can find you, and if they wanna shoot you a DM and learn more about you, take it away and let them know where you can find you on social.
I am everything's just my first and my last name. I didn't get creative with any of my social media. So my Instagram is Nicole Marso and my Facebook is Nicole Marso. And I am an open book and my DMs are always open. So if it's questions about what I really like about your podcast is you talk about the stuff that people don't want to talk about. And I have always said that. I started saying that with my brother's suicide. I will talk about the hard stuff. I will talk about the shit that people are scared to talk about. And my DMs are open for questions about suicide. Questions about recovery, questions about being a single mom, the hard questions I will answer, and I'm not afraid to answer them. And so I think that's really cool that you spread that message because I know when I was first dealing with my brother's suicide, I felt like I was the only one talking about it for a really long time and being really open with suicide. And there are so many people that are really opening up the fact of talking about mental health, which is so important, and talking about addiction and the hard shit that people are like, "Ooh, I don't wanna touch that." It's really cool that people are talking about that, and it is opening up so many conversations in this world, and it is the most beautiful thing to watch, and so I really thank you for that. I think that's really cool.
Thank you, I appreciate those kind words, and that's what it's all about, just sharing other stories.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, like I say, what walk of life you came from. Everyone's story is valuable. I've had so many like different walks of life on platform. Not some of them aren't in recovery. Some of them are still drinking or doing drugs, but they have other underlying issues or stories as well as to why they are or where they are and stuff like that. And that's okay. Like it's not all about recovery on my show. And that's what I love about it. It's just like such a
Yeah.
broad niche and I love just sharing everyone's story at the end of the day. That's the main thing here. And I
I
appreciate you taking the time out of your day, Nicole, to come on the show and share your story too.
Yeah. I was really happy to be here. This was really cool. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. But before we go, if you all could head over again to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, head over to Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to your show, hit that follow button. And I'm now on Good Pods, everyone. So if you download the Good Pods app, there's amazing content on there. It's all podcasting and a really cool platform. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, Nicole.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.